What's going on, everybody? We are back for another episode of the ABJ Podcast, episode 104 with Merrick, Miami. Very excited for this one. Got to see this guy way back in the day when Outbreak Wrestling was still a thing. They did a collaboration show at the Monster Factory. He took on my former podcast co-host, Andy Header. It was a great matchup. Okay, a lot of potential with this kid. We're going to learn a lot about him and his journey in this professional wrestling world. Been doing we're going to try something new today on the podcast, so if you're an audio listener, you may not see the visual aspect of certain things, so I am going to be popping some photos on the screen and maybe getting some interview questions based on their Instagram posts. We're going to try something new and see how it goes. I'm not going to lean too heavily on it because I do want to not ruin the entire experience for everybody who listens to this on the audio side of things, because as of this recording, it is in October. I am stockpiling a bunch of episodes, so a lot of stuff you're hearing from now till then is based pretty much all in the month of October. A lot of crazy things. I will be more open about a lot of stuff in my life upcoming very soon, or probably you've already heard it by the time this airs. But there's a lot going on in my personal life, so I'm trying to get as much done as I can now. So by the time this airs, I can be back on my feet and doing everything I can, so this doesn't end, because I am having a blast. Did have a pretty good breakthrough this weekend in the month of October. Just got ranked in the Apple podcasts, or just the podcast charts in general, in the top 250 in professional wrestling podcasts in North America. When I first got the alert, I was right behind Chael Sonnen, which is exciting because he's a big name and people know who he is, and he's a former contender for world championships. And then I jumped to 121, so we were inside the 150. And I'm very proud about that, because I'm not talking about mainstream wrestling. I'm not a legend. I'm not someone who spreads dirt or gossip or anything negative. I'm showcasing the independent scene. So the fact that I'm being noticed and I'm being ranked in those charts, showing my love for an independent scene that needs it, is exciting to me, and it's something I'm very proud of. And I'm glad that more people are hearing interviews with these talents, because that's my goal, is to get more people to be aware of what's going on in the independent scene and the people you should be supporting and loving, because if they're on this podcast, I think they're good people and I think they're worth your time. So thank you guys so much. Links are below if you want to check out more things ABJ, and on my social medias are all below. Merchandise pages, we are now on Pro Wrestling Tees, as well as Brainbusters, as well as the other merch pages. TeePublic will have all of my logos except the ones that got taken down for copyright reasons. But they may pop up on Teespring. Just putting it out there. But also check out my links below for my guests at all times and support them, as well as the intro music and the people who make my logos, and all those people are all in my link tree. So make sure you show all of them support and love. And he's adjusting a little bit here. We'll give him a couple more seconds. I'll filibust. So make sure you go and support them. If you're listening to this episode, make sure you leave a review and a 5-star review. It goes a long way on the audio platform side of things, whether it's on Spotify or Apple. If you're on YouTube, hit like, share, subscribe. I know people, I don't like saying it because I hate hearing it, but it does help more than you know. So make sure you hit those thumbs up, because they help the algorithm and all that fun things. Just thank you all for the support, and I appreciate you all so much. So without further ado, let me bring in the superstar, Merrick, Miami.
The superstar!
What's going on? First off, what's going on back there? What do you got on those walls? Is that photos or?
Yeah, so back here we have some trading cards, obviously, Zack Ryder / Matt Cardona, my girl Carmella, and Jeff Hardy. As well as I am the current SWO Uprising champion. So there's the title. And then over here is the entrance vest that Matt Cardona wore to the ring against me back in September of 2021. Was fortunate enough to buy that off of him. So pretty
he'll
cool.
Sell anything. He'll make a buck.
Oh yeah.
What was he selling? His ring gear when he wrestled Nick Gage, and it's all covered in blood, and he sold that.
Dude, he made like the WrestleMania plaques out of those, and I think he made like $20,000 like off these plaques.
This guy is killing the game. He is absolutely the inspiration of how you can take a negative situation of being released from the biggest company in the world when there was no competition and there was nothing else out there but the independent scene. There was no AEW. There was nothing like that he could have jumped to right away. And he didn't sign to any of those companies and banked on himself. And look at him. He's the biggest
Yeah.
draw in independent wrestling right now.
No,
And he's killing it. And he's helping younger talent get over as well. He's not going and being selfish and going to these promotions and being like, I can't lose, brother. Like he goes out there and gives 110% every match he's in. But we will talk more about Matt Cardona, the hardcore and original ECW legend, in a little bit. But first off, I was aware a little bit of you, some of your background, but I can't wait to hear and learn more. But you've been around quite some time. I'm looking at some of these pictures, man, and you're a baby in some of them. Like you.
Oh yeah.
You're super young. When did you get into this industry?
So I mean, I feel like I kind of, I don't want to say that's when I broke in, but I feel like we've all, at least in my generation and generation before me, have done backyard wrestling at some point in our lives.
No shame in that.
Yeah,
Seth Rollins is ranked number 1 in the world right now on ESPN and Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and he got to start in the backyard.
Right, exactly. So I probably started doing that in like 2011, late 2011, till 2015 when I met the Wolfman at SWO. And it kind of just took off from there. Wolfman invited me to training with a few others, Ace Dallas, Sage Matthews, just to name a few. And we started training there, and we just kept going back every week. And then, he offered, hey, you guys want to really do this? Like, I'll train you guys. And we were like, sweet. And that's the dream, right? Like as a kid, I want to be in the WWE one day, but I got to have that first step. And the Wolfman meeting us and giving us opportunity was like the first step. And that was 2015. So
wow. That's sick. And then you started training then a little bit at Monster Factory as well. You worked there?
No. So the only time I've been to Monster Factory was that time that you had saw me wrestle Andy Header.
Oh, okay. I thought you were a trainee there for a little bit.
No, that was my first time there. So it was another one of those things. Like at the time, I lived in Philadelphia from late 2018 to late 2021, and it would have been very easy for me to just commute to the Monster Factory, and I probably would have done it. But as you know, the cost of living in Philadelphia is a lot more than where I live now, which is my hometown. And, bills, life, kind of got in the way of that. But, here it was more affordable for me to train with the Wolfman. So, we still go to training every now and then, and, try not to get rusty or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only time I ever been to the Monster Factory was that time that you saw me there.
Yeah. So where are you originally from? Like, where are you born and raised?
So I was born in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I was raised
baby.
Yeah, I was raised in Littlestown, Pennsylvania, but we had a Hanover, Pennsylvania phone number and a Littlestown address because of we had a Littlestown phone number, Hanover address. And it was weird because we were like right on the line of like the towns. So we had like the best of both worlds. But I live in Hanover now. So, and I technically lived in Hanover because that's what the address was, but whatever. But I just say I'm from Hanover because nobody knows what Littlestown is, or if they don't know what Hanover is, I say, "Oh yeah, I'm like 15 minutes away from Gettysburg."
That's the PA move, right? So you're like, "Where in Pennsylvania are you?" And you're like, I just say I say Pottsville or Hazleton because that's the two closest things to me. Like they're like, "Oh, okay." Like where in Pottsville? I go another 25 minutes away in a small, because in between Pottsville and Hazleton, there's 400 small towns that are just surrounded by mountains. But so here's my question. I kind of gave you a little teaser of the first thing I'm going to pop up on you here. So you're a fan of the Washington Commanders, right?
So I have a love-hate with the Commanders now.
I mean, we all do. They're a tough team to keep loving. So here you are rocking maybe your old school Washington gear, we'll say. So being from Pennsylvania and myself, who I'm from Pennsylvania, how did you pick that team?
So my grandfather was a Cowboys fan.
Sorry to hear that.
Well,
Sure, he was a
still,
nice guy, but that
well,
I'll try not to
still,
hold it against him.
still is a Cowboys fan. But it's funny. There's a photo of me. I just saw it not too long ago, and I have like, I don't know. I'm probably three and a half, and I have a little like Cowboys windbreaker, like toddler jacket on, and it just makes me cringe.
Yeah, just
Uh,
burn it. Burn that
but
photo so it never
I
existed.
had a really good friend growing up, Greg, and he always loved the Redskins, and our other friend Nick, he loved the Redskins. And I really didn't watch sports. Like I played sports growing up, but like I was the kid who was like, why do I want to watch it on TV? Like that's boring.
Mhm.
Like it would hurt me to sit there and watch a baseball game. I'd just be like, this is so boring. Like hearing the announcers just say, "Oh, stay on the second base." Like it was just boring to me. I'd rather just be there.
Yeah.
And then I guess if I'm being honest, it was just kind of like a bandwagon thing. I was like, okay, well, you guys like them, and I was like, I want to like something too and fit in. But it was weird because if I can remember correctly, I think originally before uh Washington, I liked New Orleans because of
Color
Reggie
schemes.
Bush.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the
Black
color
and
scheme.
gold. I like it. Look, up in the corner, man. I'm a black and gold guy. That's my high
Yeah.
school team colors. People think I'm a Steelers fan because I'm like, no, that's my high school team. I just think black and gold are good color schemes.
But yeah, I was like big into like Reggie Bush and stuff like that.
Remember his first hit? He got cracked in Philly.
Uh-huh.
He took that screen. Ooh, what a!
Yeah.
I liked Reggie Bush when he hit the pros, but when he was in college, I hated him because they beat. They were USC, and I don't like USC. I'm a Notre Dame
Yeah.
kid. But the reason I asked is because there's a lot of Pennsylvania fans who are Washington fans, and the people
Yeah.
are like always confused of how that happens. And I tell them as like the Hershey area where you're from, all
Right.
of their minor league teams all go to DC. Like the Hershey
Yeah.
Bears go to the Capitals. They're
Right.
I don't know what they're senators or whatever they're called. They
Yeah.
go play the
Yeah.
the Nationals. And Washington used to train. Their training camp was in Carlisle.
Right.
And before they moved to Washington, the roadmap of that team was they played in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, as the Pottsville Maroons, went from Pottsville to Boston,
Right.
to Washington, and then became what we now know as the Washington Commanders. So that's like
Right.
the little Washington history. So like people always wonder why there's such a big presence of that team in PA, and it's
Yeah.
mostly because of the Harrisburg and
Right.
the Hershey area.
Yeah. Well, and too, like their stadiums in Landover,
Mhm.
and that's
Hopefully
literally,
that changes soon.
yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, that's literally only like an hour and maybe 20 minutes from where I live. So I mean, that commute too alone, like, will draw. Who's what football team am I gonna like? Oh, well, I can go to an NFL game an hour and 15 minutes away at the Commander Stadium. Or I just heard
Yep.
that they just like are gonna drop like 4.2 some billion dollars into like revamping their stadium.
Yep.
And I
Oh,
was
really?
just
They're
like,
gonna revamp it?
yeah. And I
I
was
don't like
just
that.
like, okay. I was like, how sickening does that sound? Like you just have $4.2 billion laying around to just, oh,
Yeah,
we're just gonna change
and
everything.
we're all broke.
Yeah,
So
it's
when you
crazy.
started training and you started getting early in your career, how long did it take from your training to your first match at a promotion, and how did that process go about?
So I started training. I guess it would have been July. So I made my debut match July 25th of 2015, and I'm trying to think. I graduated in June, and I would have been training before I graduated. So I think I was training for like 3 or 4 months,
Nice.
and then obviously, backyard wrestling. We think that we know what we're doing, but we don't. Well, it turns out that I guess I had some sort of clue on how things work. Um, but Wolfman threw me into this big battle royal with a bunch of the other guys that were training with us, not everybody. And then some guys that were already working SWO. And Like we had, I had no idea. I was like, this is the first time I'm ever wrestling in front of a live crowd. And I was like, all right, well, I guess here we go. And then we were all kind of like, well, nobody ever said like what the finish was, like who's the finish. And literally, so we all kind of did like that traditional like WrestleMania battle royal entrance where everybody just walks out together. So like they had this god awful music play. I don't even remember. It's some like metal thing, and I was just like, come on. Um, and I remember, I guess it was Hayne at the time was like all right, like literally as the music was playing and we were getting ready to walk out, he's like, okay, it's gonna be you four in the final, and then Leo's over. And I was just like, holy shit, I'm gonna like win my debut match. Like what? Like this is crazy.
So you found out as you were going through the curtain.
Yeah, literally he told me that, and 20 seconds later I was walking through the curtain to go out. It
Were you
was
trying to hide your emotional face of like, I'm winning this
um
match face?
kind of. I mean, I guess I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. Um, but it was more of the like, okay, like this is what I always wanted. Let's get it. Like,
Did you have a lot of support in the crowd, like family, friends?
yeah, I had both my great grandparents were there. My girlfriend at the time was there. I believe my uncle was there. And some family friends were there, so it was pretty
That's
cool.
sick. So you're like, oh
Yeah,
my god, I'm gonna do it for everybody.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
a lot of fun. That's why I'm saying, man, like a lot of people go to wrestling shows and they see those pre-show matches or those early ones on the card, and they're from a fan standpoint, because we're so preconditioned to like we only care about the
Right.
main event. It's like those memories are just as important for the people in the match if they're first or if they're last. You know what I mean?
Oh my
So like,
gosh, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So you're doing this for a while, and I'm guys kind of looking through your back catalog of matches, and it's crazy how you went from like this scrawny little beanpole to what we're seeing here. You know what I'm saying? Look at
Yeah,
that. You know,
I
but
know.
one that caught my eye early on in your career is maybe at the time I'm not sure where they were in their career, but now when we know them, they're very very talented on the independent scene. So you had a match here with Sonny Kiss at
Yeah,
back in 2018,
yeah,
and
a hot
you were
minute.
going by a new name there, a different name of Leo Sweet with that puffer vest. That's great. No long hair.
Yeah.
It's funny to see the transformation. But was this one of your first bigger names that you got to work on a one-on-one level of someone who's probably been around a lot longer or had that bigger
Yeah.
that bigger feel?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that match was fun. I was doing the Leo Sweet gimmick then. But I was more when we had that match, I was doing like the King of Sweet Leo Sweet stuff. So I had like more of like the Michael Jackson kind of gimmick
Hmm.
with it, which was fun because obviously Sonny is Sonny, an amazing human being. But also has dance moves if no one has ever seen her with her dance moves. Um, but it's just like and I've known Sonny for quite some time, like back from like backyard. And that match will always be one of my favorites. I mean, I was blown as shit like after that match. I was just like it was rough. But then again, I never really wrestled someone on that level at that time. Um, but it was nice to kind of have that. Um, there's some matches that I've had. I'm trying to think of how to say this so it makes sense. That I wouldn't change, but I wish I would have been, say, 2 years more experienced.
Hmm.
Like have 2 more years of experience in that exact
So
match,
what
and
you're
then
saying is you want to run it back, Sonny. Sonny,
I,
if you're
I,
listening,
would, I
let's
would
run it
def-
back.
I would definitely run it back for sure.
Sonny is someone who, so like when I got into the commentary thing, it was probably like 2.5 years ago, and I missed that wave. Like I could have, like if I would have gotten in a year or two earlier than when I did, if I would have started the podcast in maybe 2017, 2016,
Right.
and if things would have worked out better, like I could have been calling Sonny Kiss and Nyla Rose and
Right.
MJF matches and like
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And I just missed the boat because AEW came in and did
Right.
what they did. But it's just like Sonny's been. I came close to doing a commentary for one Sonny Kiss match, and it never panned out for me. So if you run it back,
Yeah.
and if they need a commentator for it, I volunteer.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely love to run it back. Definitely one of my favorite opponents for sure.
Yeah. So what was is this the match or maybe another one earlier on in your career where the wrestlers always talk about their aha moment or their moment where it clicked for them, where their training just kind of like like that switch hits in your head where you're like, oh, this makes sense. I know how to work a crowd. I know how to sell properly.
Right.
Like it just starts flowing for you. When was that for you in your career?
Oh, I mean, I think every kind of professional wrestler, even on the highest levels, would probably agree that those moments never stop happening. They
Mm-hmm.
happen frequently all the time. Um, Obviously, like we'll get into it later, but my match with Matt Cardona definitely was a big like aha moment um, with crowd work and pacing. You know, the thing all the old vets always say, "Slow down, kids, slow down, kid," and it doesn't mean
If you think you're
slow
going
down.
slow, go
Yeah,
slower.
yeah, yeah. But it doesn't mean like slow down. Like it's just let the crowd breathe. Let them take in
Mm-hmm.
what just happened. Let them build up to what's about to happen. You don't want to just spot, 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 and you can do that and you could have a ridiculous match. But at the end of the day, people are going to remember that for, in my opinion, just, oh, that was a crazy ass match, not the emotion that was like, man, just like, I really loved how like Merrick Miami like told this whole story in this match of like he was once the broski of the week, and then like he almost beat his hero, but he didn't quite get him yet, and like building up, building up, building up until I actually beat him, and then that crowd feeds off of my emotion that I had, and I learned that from that, and I try to like pass that down to like other guys that I work now,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you're always learning something,
Yeah. I
from
actually take that same advice of slowing down. Like I took that and I applied it to my podcast. Like a lot of podcasters rush through things or they go from question to question and they don't let it breathe and let the conversation come naturally. On commentary, when I transitioned from a podcaster to commentary, dead air is not what you want on as a live streamer or a
Right,
podcaster. So I would just talk forever and I wouldn't shut up. And like
right,
if I would step over my broadcast partner, but like I learned to sometimes like just be quiet and let the match speak for itself. Like it's
right,
okay not to talk during a match on commentary. Like so like
right,
that advice just
absolutely.
from your learning in a different in between the ropes, like it could be applied to a lot of things. Like slow down, let your mind come to you. Look at the scenario, soak it in a little bit, and then build off of that.
Right. Yeah, that's why like you'll probably notice during this, like I'll just like stare off and I'll pause and won't say anything because I'm so like trying not to say
Mm-hmm.
because on
Say whatever you want.
podcasts I am literally the worst like um um this that. So like I just like to take that second and just be
Yeah.
like, don't say think of what you're trying to say and don't say and one will slip out here and there, but I've been working on it really hard. So
Yeah. Yes, there it is. Right away. So
um
you were Leo for a while there, and then you switched to Merrick Miami. Where does the Merrick Miami the superstar Merrick Miami? I apologize.
you good.
Where did that derive from? Where did you pull that character from? What was your idea to create this character, and what's behind it?
Right. So ultimately 2020 happened. COVID, and I really wasn't like I was having one of those points in my career. I wasn't having fun doing this. I just felt like I was going out there being someone I wasn't. Everyone was tagging me in, the Michael Jackson impersonator moonwalk DDT. and all of that stuff. And obviously, listen, I'm not that guy. I wasn't that guy. I won't be that guy.
You should bring it
And
back and wrestle the other Michael Jackson impersonator
yeah,
wrestler.
right.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, I just felt I wasn't having fun, and I was like, okay, let's look at this. I have all these people tagging me in this. I even had a few promoters reach out to me thinking that I was this guy. And I'm not going to lie to them and say, oh, yeah, I am, just to get the booking. And then I show up and they're like, what the hell is this? But so I was like, okay, I was like, I'm fighting like a fight that I'm going to lose. And I was just like, if I'm going to change, like now is the time to do it because nothing was happening, other than the dreadful Thunderdome, like nothing was happening. And I was like, okay. Um, I got sent home from work for 4.5 months. And I was just like, okay, well, what do I do? And then finally, I was like, you know what? I was like, I guess it was probably May of 2020 was when Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder got released from WWE. And I was approached like, hey, we might try to like make this happen, Leo Sweet versus Zack Ryder, whatever his name will be. And I was just like, ugh. I was like, I don't like the sound of that. And I can't remember who I was talking to one time, but they told me like, if you like picture your name on a WrestleMania billboard versus The Rock. And I was like, Leo Sweet versus The Rock. And it just gave me cringe. I was just like, no. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do at the time. I didn't have a name. I didn't have a vision for the character, but I wanted something more me. And if ever anybody knows me personally, like I love the beach, I love the ocean, I love sharks. I'm just nuts about that kind of culture and living. And I was like, okay, well, let me do something like that. And then I was, looking for entrance music, and I just in my head, I just kept hearing Carlito's theme song play in my head, and I was like, I need something like that. And it sucked because I couldn't find something like that. And I was like, even if I find something close, people are gonna be like, oh, it's just Carlito and whatever. But the girl that I was with at the time, when we were talking about children many years ago, um, one of the names that we were thinking of for down the road was Merrick. And I was like, that's awesome. And then I joked and I was like, oh, I was like, Merrick, Miami. I was like, because I've always wanted to go to Miami for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And I was like, that would be cool. Like, that would be a cool, that would be kind of a cool name. And I played around with that. I think I had like, and this is the first time I'm saying this on a podcast too. Like some of the other names, they all had Merrick or Miami in it. One was like Mr. because I was gonna go for like a rich kind of guy, like Mr. Merrick Miami Mercado. Just like I was just like mix and matching all those different names together, like Miami Mercado or Merrick Mercado, like just all kinds of stuff. And Mercado is my father's last name, so I was just
Yeah.
mix and matching like a bunch of stuff together. And I was just like, I hate all of these. I was like, I don't know what
Mercado
to
is
do.
cool, but I always think of like, all right, Mercado, and then like if someone had to search you, would
Yeah.
they be able to spell it? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
or would they say Mercado?
yeah,
Like
because let's
like
be honest, pro wrestling fans,
yeah,
let's not make it harder for them.
yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
people are just like, we're not even the people in the ring. We're not the smartest. We didn't go to
right,
college. We want to
yeah,
jump around for a living.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, bottom line was I wasn't having fun as Leo Sweet anymore. I just was just burnt out with it.
Mhm.
And it sucked because I started my career as Leo Sweet. I had 6 years invested of merchandise and gear and so much um what I would call a big follow. Like I think I had a decent following for being who I was, like a nobody. but I worked hard to get those followers. And I was like, man, like I'm gonna change my whole identity. Like this is like new age, branding and stuff like that. And it was nerve wracking. But then when I finally was like, you know what? Nope, I'm doing it. I'm leaving Leo Sweet in the past. Leo Sweet is dead. I'm going to Merrick, Miami. Then it was just like another one of those like aha moments because
Yeah.
the way that I debuted was perfect. It actually helped somebody else's gimmick out.
Hmm.
It helped my new gimmick out, and I like the first couple shows I did as Merrick Miami. I was like, oh my gosh, it was just such a breath of fresh air because I could go out there, I could be me. I'm naturally full of myself. I'm naturally just like wearing like stuff that I would wear to the beach and it's 50 degrees outside. So it's me.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I can present more of myself like turned up to the fans. And ever since then, I just had such a blast being Merrick Miami and like I design all of my own gear, all of my own logos, merchandise, all of it. I do it all. I don't outsource any of it. Here and there, I might if I'm burnt out on an idea, but pretty much I do everything. And what you see as fans that are watching this, or you, Anthony, or any of my other peers, it's like what I see in my head is what you're seeing. Now there's some things that obviously for a lot of people, we try some things and they just don't work out.
Hmm.
So me just being Merrick Miami, then I went to South Beach's favorite son, Merrick Miami, and I really didn't even know who South Beach's favorite son, Merrick Miami, was either. I
I
was
think that's what you used the day you wrestled Header. You were South Beach.
yeah,
I think you were doing the South
yeah.
Beach's favorite son thing. Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm still trying to figure out this gimmick. And I did that show. I don't know if you were there, at Outbreak at the Field House, and Kevin Kelly was there, and a few other people were there. I can't remember who else was there, but I wrestled. I can't remember his name. He had long hair. I think he was pretty green at the time. But after the match, I remember Kevin Kelly was like, "Hey man, you went out there, you did as best as you could with him. He, you know, needs a little bit more training, but you did,
Hmm.
what you needed to do. You went out there, you were the superstar that you needed to be." And I was like, okay. I
Taking
was
that.
like, in my head, I was like, all right. I was like, it was kind of cool to hear Kevin Kelly say that about me. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm just gonna run with it. And honestly, that's the first time I've ever said like publicly like where I got that from, but it was because I
Hmm.
had that like backstage conversation with Kevin Kelly, and he was like, "Oh, you went out there, you were the superstar that you needed to be to get through the match." And I was like, okay, that's it, superstar.
Yeah. Well, it's cool, man, because like rebranding yourself is terrifying. Like I was at a show recently, and there's a kid that's coming out of Catch Point, and he walked in and he's like, I'm like, what is your character? He goes, bro, this is like my first booking outside of my school that I'm trying, and the only reason I'm coming here at the Sanctuary is because it's a place I was told like they accept students or young people so they can get your reps, and this is all about safety, and I feel comfortable here. And I was like, all right. And he just had the black knee pads, black boots, and black trunks. And I was like, you're like a young boy. You look like a young boy in Japan. Like you're still early in
Yeah,
your career. You're going through everything. Honestly, I wish more independent wrestlers would do that for a while. Like pull the young
right.
boy. There's no character to you. Like
Yeah,
be simple with your moveset. Be like, don't try before. There's a lot of people before they become the wrestler, they think of their character first, right? So you're in your bedroom, you're playing wrestling. Like, here's my
right.
character. I would be this, and this. And then you start doing it in your bedroom and it looks awesome, but then you're in front of a live crowd. And you're like, I can't get this over. Like, go
Yeah,
out as that young boy and don't dedicate thousands of dollars into your merch
Right.
and your gear until you really find yourself. And it's cool because kind of looking back at it now, like if you go and look through your social media presence and you go through everything, and I think it'd be a stupid question to ask of who influenced you growing up. I mean, here's some
Right.
photos here. Like you, when it comes to the term Mark, I mean, my God,
Yeah.
there's you in
Yeah.
your
I know.
custom internet championship, like you're cosplaying as Matt Cardona,
What
like
a
everything
fucking
about that, like his blueprint of like, hey, I literally just left somewhere I was at for years, and that was my comfort
yeah.
zone, and I never thought I'd go anywhere. And wrestling fans, they all said like, oh, like his release came, they're like, well, what's Zack Ryder gonna do? Like everyone wrote him
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
They
And
said
now
he's
look
never
at
going to
it.
be anything. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
transformed himself. So
Crazy.
the fact that you not only are you a fan and you respect this dude, and you had that fandom, I'm gonna kind of have you dive into it a little more here. Like there you are, you're meeting him.
Yeah.
You're meeting him at WWE events. Like you followed
Yeah.
this guy for a very very long time. What does a
Yeah.
Zack Ryder mean to you?
Well, first of all, that last photo you shared was yeah, that one. So that was I met him. That was the weekend I met him for the first time. I met him the day before that, I believe, was the first time that I met him. And I remember that was WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. And I remember I was literally on the plane. I paid for the Wi-Fi, and then I saw that like Zack Ryder was going to be at Access, and I was like, I really didn't have the money because I was like, man, I just spent all this money on a flight and a hotel and all this to go there to fly to my first WrestleMania that I had to fly to go to. Excuse me. And I was just like, well, I was
Where
like,
was
there,
WrestleMania that year?
New Orleans.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I was like, I'm getting ticket to Access. and and I said it's funny, I have it on my phone. I watched it a few months ago because I was going through some old stuff. And I was a nervous fucking wreck to meet him for the first time. Like it was bad. We were at the bar and my buddy's aunt just kept buying us whatever we wanted. Like she was just like another round, another round. And I kept telling her, I was like,
Wait,
bro, we
you're
gotta
old
get
enough to drink in this photo?
yeah, yeah,
Jesus, you don't look
yeah,
it.
yeah,
You look
yeah,
13.
yeah, I was, yeah, yep. And I was like, damn, I think I literally turned 21 like 3 or 4 days before that picture. So it was like perfect. I was like New Orleans, freshly legal to drink, like it was gonna be a time, and it definitely was. But I remember I was like, bro, I was like, we gotta get the access because like they're gonna let us in like 20 minutes. And I was like, and I'm not trying to like be like a drunk like fool like meeting him for the first time. And so we get there, and this is when Access was like actually Access, and like they had like a huge like layout and stuff like the past few Access,
It,
like
it was treated like
really
an
weren't
actual con with WWE people.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. But it was so awesome. And so I remember we walked in and they had like a big Tron and it said like what booth which superstar was gonna be at what time. And I think he was like the first session, and like I had paid for the first session. I think the sessions were like 2 hours, like windows. Joe, get down, cat. And I just remember it came up on the screen. It was like Zack Ryder, booth, whatever it was, in 5 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. Cause obviously, if you knew me before when you met me, like you would be like, oh my God, this fucking Mark. Like, I
Yeah,
mean that
you're the
I'm
Zack
still a Mark.
Ryder
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
And
Listen, I was the same way growing up. I was the Shawn Michaels kid. Like you couldn't
yeah,
tell, like you know how behind the scenes. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
yeah,
I don't care what he
yeah,
did. I don't like. I
yeah,
don't. He could
yeah,
have killed Mother
exactly.
Teresa. I'm gonna be a Shawn Michaels fan.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And I remember we were in line and there was like maybe two people in line when we got there. This is me and my buddy. I'm Ace Dallas. And I'm like, I was like, I can't believe there's not more people in this line. And then he was like, you do know who like we're talking about here, right? Like Zack
Yeah.
Ryder. I mean, come on. And I was like, yeah, dude, but like it's fucking Zack Ryder. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember this guy, the guy in front of us turned around and he was laughing and he was like, he's like, I never have seen someone so excited to meet Zack Ryder in my entire life.
I love that though.
And I was like, dude, I said, you have no idea. I was
What
like,
makes him special to you? Like what gravitated you to him as a superstar, as a wrestler?
so I mean, obviously, like I was a fan of Hawkins and Ryder. I was a fan of them when they were Edgeheads
Mhm.
and even when they were the Major Brothers. But what really kickstarted, like I said, I was a fan back then, but what really like made me like a super fan was like right when he started the Z True Long Island story. You know, he gives himself credit all the time for being like the first superstar to use social media, you know, as to their advantage, and I have to agree.
Yeah, and it he got punished for it because he
Right?
got over
Yeah,
more than he was supposed
right,
to. Yeah.
right. But definitely like
To this day, like right now in wrestling, everyone's screaming for LA Knight, and I think to
yeah,
myself like, I I I can't get behind it as fully because the history of that is like you're getting over before they want you to, and it's
yeah,
like we'll use you until you sign that contract, and then you're locked in for 5 years, and then you become catering's biggest superstar. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like because it
yeah,
happened to Ryder, it happened to
right,
Russo, it has to all these like you get over before you're supposed to, you're not supposed to. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
right. But yeah, and like Z True Long Island story, like I was like literally I saw the premiere of the first episode the day that it dropped, you know, the second week that it dropped, third week, fourth week. And then it was like sometime in 2011, like early 2011, he was on NXT when NXT was like the challenges and
yeah.
like all that stupid stuff that they did. He was the Titus O'Neil's pro, I think. But I went to SmackDown and they were taping NXT before SmackDown. It was the first time that I saw him, Zack Ryder live, and you know the oh radio, and I just like
Lost
lost
it.
it. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. And like from that day, it was just over with. I was just like, all right. And then like I was like, why does he not have a T-shirt? Like what the heck? And then they released like the Zack Ryder basic T-shirt. It wasn't even like the authentic one. Just and I was just like, I have to have it. And then
Do you
it was like,
still have it?
I do, yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I have all, dude. I have it all. I have the foam fist. I got all the headbands they ever had, all the sunglasses, all
I
the
love that.
T-shirts. I have it all. It's in my storage unit, literally in a bin that just has big Sharpie on it. It says Zack Ryder stuff.
Now,
Like,
when he started the podcast and he started doing stuff that was more of getting to know him as a person rather than the characters that he
right.
was portraying, were you big fans of that as well, like the Major Fig Network and all that?
Yeah, so I listened to the first couple episodes of Major Pod when it came out, and while I did collect figures, I didn't collect it like on the level that like
Yeah,
Matt collects and Brian collects and some other fig collectors collect. So I really like I can't sit here and look at a a Macho Man Randy Savage figure and say, "Oh, this came out in 70 or 80, whatever." I can't look at a figure and tell you when it came out. I can kind of
I
give you a
learned a
rough
lot
guess.
about figures that I didn't know about when they had their
Oh,
show on the
absolutely.
network. When they were on the network and they would go from place to place, and like I wasn't a
Yeah.
big figure person, but like he kind of sparked like if I had the money to buy figures,
Oh, yeah,
he's
for
making
sure.
it appealing. Like I
Yeah.
had all of these in boxes, and I interviewed
Right.
Leo Sparrow. Leo Sparrow got me more into the podcast than they did because he's like their guy. Like he kind of hangs out
Yeah.
with them, and I was like, I have all these figures in boxes. He's like, let them breathe, and I was like, yeah, but some of them are worth like 100. He's like, let
Let
them
them
breathe.
breathe.
You're gonna feel so much better about yourself. And I was like, I feel way better about myself. I open them
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
don't care if it's $1,000 figure. It's coming out. It's going on
Yeah.
display.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I enjoyed it because, technically when it started, they were still Zach and Kurt, they weren't under Matt and Brian yet
Yeah.
because they were still under the contract of WWE. But it was interesting because there's always dirt sheets of that'll tell you like how people are in their real lives, and I heard some like different things about him. He's kind of a strange bird. He's kind of this. He's kind of that. Whatever. I'm a big fan of him. So like you said, Shawn Michaels can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Matt Cardona, Zack Ryder can do no wrong. But I couldn't really get into the pod at first because I was just like one of those things. It was new. I'm trying to get into it. I don't really collect figures anymore, but I was listening to support him because I was just like, oh, well, it's him. So give me something to listen to while I'm at work all day and whatever. And it was okay. But it wasn't until like then he started MC True Long Island Story where, he's recapping each episode of Z True Long Island Story. And then I was just like, all right, this is the good stuff
Yeah.
because now I'm getting to see the backstory, excuse me, of all the episodes that I watched as, you know, 13 and 14-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so cool to like just see that because I was like, all right, cool. So I was like, oh, so that's what he meant by this, when he's in there talking about like I can draw money and he holds up a drawn piece of money. Like I thought it was funny as a kid, but now I know he's basically taking a shot at WWE. Like I can draw money.
Yeah.
Like, and young me doesn't care about that. I'm just like, oh, this is my guy. So a lot of cool stuff like that. Um, like came out of that. But as far as like the pod goes, like yeah, I couldn't really get into it, but now I am, especially because every once in a while I'm mentioned on it. Like it's just so cool to me that like I can't help but listen to it.
Yeah.
So
So you're on the scene, you're grinding, you're putting your work in. The rumblings are out there that you have a promotion that says, "Hey, we have a chance to possibly bring this guy in, and if we do, you're the guy who's going to get this opportunity." So now you're probably like, what are your feelings? What are your things before you just heard? Like it's
yeah,
not in stone yet. You're just kind of hearing that we trust you enough as a talent that you're gonna get this match.
right,
And we're gonna give you because it's not cheap to bring people in sometimes, but we're gonna
yeah.
bring somebody in and you're getting the crack at it. How do you feel about this?
So for years I would always get butthurt, to be honest with you. Like if one of my friends got a cool opportunity like that or did like dark work or something like that, like I would just get butthurt. And I don't think it was out of like spite or anything. I think it's just
It
natural.
wasn't towards them. It's like, well,
Right,
what am I missing that I'm not getting these
right.
opportunities? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I think that's a natural
Um,
thing to have. Like one of the
yeah,
big things I asked like Leo and I asked like people who go like Creative Pro. You're at Creative Pro and you look at that roster and you're like, look at everyone who came out of this school and look at the people who are on
right,
TV now from this school. Like, how do you sit back and think, next one's gone and this one's gone and this
right.
one's gone and this one's
Yeah, it's
gone? Or
like
like I
when's
asked
my
Joey
time?
Conway the same question. Like,
Yeah,
when am I'm killing it right now. Everyone loves what I'm
right,
doing. What's my missing piece? Like, as someone who's passionate and driven and want to be on that next level, it's got
right.
to eat you a little bit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and like I said, it's not really envy towards them. I think it's more of just like that natural, like, well, what am
I
I
do it all the
doing
time.
about
I look at my interviews, I look at other people's interviews, and I see they get tons of views, and I'm like, what am I
yeah,
missing?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
right,
Like,
right,
yeah,
exactly. But yeah, I mean, I remember and I still have the printed out emails like from the whole working.
I love how you keep everything. That's so
But
exciting.
I just like I don't know. I mean, even now really still don't have words for it because it was kind of a like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Like he really wants to come here and wrestle some fucking nobody like me. Like, yeah, right.
Have you had any contact with him besides meeting him at meet and greets and stuff like that? Or like, was there
To
ever
th-
like,
to that point, no.
yeah, that's
Uh,
awesome.
at that point in time, no, I haven't. Um, and I didn't even have contact with him until like I think I DM'd him on Twitter like the graphic to share, and like Yep, that one right there. And I was just like, and like he replied back and was like, "Thanks, bro." And I
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
13-year-old inside was like, "Holy shit!"
So all this time, all the collectibles, all the I'm gonna get drunk and I'm gonna risk my whole paycheck to meet this guy,
Yeah.
and finally the promoter sends you the graphic and it's official. Like, what is your like? Take us back to your mind state the first time you see this graphic and it's 100% gonna happen.
Well, the best part of this, and not many people know this, is the day that I found this. This is how I found out about this actually happening. I said, "Hey, we need you to." They said, "Hey, we need you to make a graphic," because I was doing the graphics for them at the time, and I was like, "Okay, sure. What do you need?" They were like, "We need a poster for whatever show it was. Be careful what you wish for. It's gonna be you and Matt Cardona for the
So that's
impact."
how they told you you had to make your
Yeah,
own graphic for you
yeah,
versus Matt Cardone. That is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And I was just like, oh well, Jesus, like what a life. And I remember I made it. I probably spent like, believe it or not, I probably spent like a month and a half, 2 months on that poster just because like I kept tweaking things. I had to have it be perfect.
Yeah, dude,
And
I this happened 2 years ago, and you just retelling it makes me so happy for you because, like, as a super fan and as someone who inspired you as much as I do, like, that like, I'm sorry we're making it like a 30-minute podcast about a you and Cardona match, but, like, that's
it's
exciting to
good.
me, like, this is awesome for you, like, I'm so excited, like
Yeah. Well, and I'm very, very grateful and fortunate because not a lot of people can say that they've had their dream match.
yeah.
Um,
And
you
with
know,
like and you wrestled him at the best part of his career. Like,
oh,
that's
absolutely.
not on TV. He's living his
Right.
best career, like, on the independent scene right now. Like, sure, him cashing in and him winning the ladder match, like, all amazing moments, but, like, in 10, 20, 30 years from me at least, I'm not gonna remember as much of his WWE run as what he's been doing on the independent scene and how he's been uplifting young
Yeah.
talent. Like the two that stick out for me the most is you and Mike Skyros. Like he went into both these places, man, and he made both of us look like megastars.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy because I was, I'm not saying that I'm this big, you know, I mean, I am a superstar, but I'm not this big, worldwide superstar like Matt Cardona. But I went into that match like, I mean, obviously nervous as one could be, but also ready, and it's funny because I called him out before like this had even like was a thing. I called him out on social media because the whole point of me calling him out on social media was I want people to be like, yo, who's this Merrick Miami kid who called a shot against Matt Cardona, so they would stop talking about Leo Sweet.
Mhm.
And I was like, if something comes out of this, cool. If it doesn't, whatever, because it was never my intention to have like anything come out of it. I just thought I was gonna say whatever, and he was gonna say, whatever, kid, fuck you, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then it ended up turning into me cutting a promo after a match, like in front of a live crowd, saying I want Matt Cardona, and then it turned into him tweeting back saying if my promoters got the cash, like he'll come and kick my ass. And then it
So
turned
cool.
into like, hey, like we need to have a dinner conversation about something. And then it turned into, hey, we need you to make this graphic. Like, hey, this is happening. And it was just like you can't write it.
Now,
And
did the promoter like let Matt in on like how much of a mega fan you were at this point in time?
so this is how bad
Did he
I was.
did he walk into the locker room that day like, "I am wrestling a fucking mark"?
This this is how he knew exactly who the hell I was for meeting me a million times,
Yeah.
and just being a big fan. But was also kind of cool, and one of the key moments of that night, because honestly, and I'll say this a million times, a lot of that match I don't even remember because it honestly didn't even feel like it happened. It
Yeah.
just was that storybook to me and that full circle that it really doesn't even feel real. I remember showing up. I remember him showing up, and then we go in like this little private locker room that we had for him to talk about our match, and he was
Oh,
like,
he
"Oh,
got a
you're
private locker room. That bastard.
yeah, yeah." And we were just like talking like as humans.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here talking to my hero, and he's like, "Oh, that's so awesome! Like you were broski of the week back when, and like, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like, what do you do? I've never seen one of your matches." And I'm sitting there laughing, like, "Well, duh, of course you've never seen one of my matches. You're fucking Zack Ryder, like."
But he watches the scene. He pays attention
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
And I just remember, like, I haven't always been the best with remembering matches up until that match, and we put that match together in like less than 10 minutes. And I think we went over it twice together. And like it was just like in my head. I was
Mhm.
just like, and I think it was more or less my consciousness was like, okay, like don't fuck this up. Like this is what you wanted. This is what you
And
worked
you're
for.
coming in as the
This is
champion
everything.
to
Yeah.
wrestle your
Yeah.
hero. Yeah.
Right. And and I guess to pull back the curtain a little bit, like, I'm totally expecting them to say, listen, Matt's gonna go over
He's gonna
and
add to his
you
Ultimo
know,
Dragon belt
yeah,
collection from all over the place. We're gonna get
right,
our promotion's gonna be on his shoulders. It's gonna make
right.
the company look
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah. And there's no way that he's gonna put you over, like I was being told. And I was just like, well, I was like, I'm fine to do whatever Matt wants to do. And we go in there and we sit down and we're having a conversation with the promoters. And then it turned out he's like, well, I'm gonna put him over because he's your champion, and he's gonna be here next month, and I'm not. And professional me and was is like, hey Matt, whatever you want to do, I'm cool with. Inside, 13-year-old me is like, holy shit, I'm gonna wrestle my hero, I'm gonna beat my hero, holy shit, like what is happening, like what is this life? And but honestly, like after that I really didn't even think about that. I was all professional. It wasn't
Yeah.
time to sit there and mark out, um, and be like, "Holy shit, like, dude, you're fucking awesome." Like, it wasn't time for that. I was like, it's time to go to work. Honestly, I was like, I need to back up all the shit that I was talking in all these promos leading up to this, because a lot of the stuff that I was saying in there and these promos were real. I feel like I can hang with Matt Cardona. I felt that nobody else in that company at the time was on my level. And I truly believe that to this day. And I had to go out there and prove that. And I wish obviously I've seen the match a million times. I watch it all the time, but I wish I could remember more of it for what it was rather than like I mean, I can watch it back and that's fine, but in the moment I wish I could have soaked it in a little more.
Mhm.
There's only probably about like 3 different key points in the match that like I've remember vividly, like it was yesterday. I made my entrance and he was coming out and he got up on the rope, did his pose, and I just hear his entrance music just blasting in my ears, and I see him, and it was just like just one of those like motion picture scenes where the camera just like slowly zooms into somebody like standing up on something, and like that's literally what it looked like to me. I saw no crowd, it was black everywhere. I hear his music and I was just like, this is crazy. And then we got a "This is awesome" chant that went for like 2 minutes, and I was like laying there looking up at the lights, like I'm really getting a "This is awesome" chant with my
With
hero.
Matt Cardona. Yeah.
This is ridiculous. And then obviously, um, when I pinned him 1, 2, 3, and I was just like, yeah. Like that right there, like if I could write a book that would just
Is
explain
that the curtain right there? Is like that? Is that the entrance ramp?
in the back, yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's literally standing, not even in gorilla. They're at the curtain watching this match.
Yep. Yep.
That's sick.
So like literally in that moment, like I in matches I try to say thank you during the pinfall to whoever my opponent is. If I can get it in without it being super noticeable, but in that moment I was just like so like I had so many emotions, and when Zach Carlucci counted to three, like I I'm a heel, right? And I mean, people probably think that that smile that I have on my face right there, oh, he's being a shitty heel. Like that is a genuine like smile. Literally looking down at, because listen, I'm a fucking nobody compared to Matt Cardona,
For
and
now. For now.
I for now,
If you're gonna take
and
anything from your hero, it's that work ethic,
right, and I I I've worked so hard and so long to get to that point, and I felt so frustrated at times, like I mentioned earlier about, man, this person's getting this opportunity, that person's getting that opportunity. And in that moment, I finally was like, I didn't get those opportunities because this was supposed to happen.
Yeah, anyone could be someone's super fan and get into the business. And if you
Right,
suck, you suck. You know what I
right,
mean? Like you weren't handed the title in that company because they
right.
wanted to put a bunch of money into making a dream come true. Like you're a
Right.
talented worker and you work your ass
I
off and
appreciate it.
you rebranded yourself and you went from a certain person to a new character and you worked your ass off to get to there. Like you earned every single
Right.
moment of that spot,
Right. Yeah, and then, after that, it led into being mentioned on the podcast and then on MC True Long Island Story talking about how he wrestled me and how I screwed him over. I mean, I pinned him 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Was there any I mean, we can't really see in that photo, but are the tights being hooked a little?
No, there no hands on the
All right, just
tights.
making sure.
I can confirm that. No hands on the tights. But and then that fast forward led into me debuting on his show for Major Pod FWF Live in October of 2022, and then again on their show after that this past May, I believe it was. And
We
and
need, right? We need we
now I
need you
have
and we need you and Leo Sparrow to take on him and Brian.
that'd be awesome. I would love that.
Yo, that Leo Sparrow bit where he says, every time I go to Florida, I make sure to eat my greens.
Yeah,
It's just her
her
name is
name's
Chelsea.
Chelsea.
So
Yeah.
good. So good.
But yeah, and I mean, and to look back now, even to the day that I wrestled him, okay, I wrestled him. I had my dream match. But did I think I would wrestle on his shows? No. Did I think that I would have a a true rookie card, and I have a Major Wrestling Figure Podcast trading card, like that just it's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, he's
And
still continually putting you over. Like they say, don't
yeah,
meet your heroes, but I mean, so your overall review here
yeah.
is, your hero is exactly what you wanted him to be.
Yeah, exactly. And his
I
and
mean,
his
the
whole
kind
thing
of
is
go forward on you a little bit here is like you're going to be a father soon. Like
right.
you're coming into a major moment,
Yeah.
and there's you
Yeah.
and your beautiful girl and the baby bump and your hero.
Right.
Like he took
Yeah.
another step with you and further in your career. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Oh,
it's
he did.
exciting,
Yeah.
man.
He was excited to take that photo. We were talking back and forth. And see, that's another thing too. Like, did I ever think that I would be friends with Matt Cardona? Never in a million years. You would have told 13-year-old me, hey, you're gonna wrestle him, you're gonna beat him, you're gonna be on a show, he's gonna give you a trading card. You guys are gonna talk, you know, frequently. You guys are good. He's gonna announce that you're having a baby. I would have said, yeah, right. Like, I would have said you're lying. But it's just been like, again, you can't write it. It's been such a storybook, and then even the story now, like I'm uh I'm sure you saw SWO. this coming weekend, like we were supposed to have Matt Cardona, and it was going to be Miami Cardona too, and we never got to announce it to the fans because he had a schedule conflict and he had to
Yeah.
cancel.
I'm sure it'll happen though in the future.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's perfect because I was bummed about it obviously, but it in my mindset was I got to wrestle him already. I had my dream match. So it's not like this was leading up to the first time I was ever going to work him. Excuse me,
You're more
but
clear-headed. You can go into the second time and maybe
right.
let loose a little more.
Right. Well, and the thing is too, and this might sound weird, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm like doubting myself or anything like this, but I think I said this recently on another podcast. I said this time go around, this what was supposed to be this weekend or what will be eventually, like, is redemption for me. And you're probably like, well, why is that redemption for you? The first time that I wrestled Matt, I I had the nerves. I was like, I'm wrestling my hero. Oh my God. I literally was right into my new gimmick. And I know we had a hell of a match. And I credit a lot of that to him, but everybody had to remind me, well, it takes two to tango. You both put the match together, and I get that. But now I'm thinking this second time, it's been 2 years. I've gained 2 years more of experience. I've worked other names in between then and now. I know what my gimmick is. I I am very much more comfortable in the ring now than I have ever been,
Mm-hmm.
and we're friends. So I don't have to worry about going out there being like, holy shit, I can't screw up, or you know what I mean? Like I don't have to worry about that. Like I'm just like, okay. And it sounds so weird to say, but like it's just me and Matt. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just Matt and I. We're going out there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're the best of friends and we talk every single day, but that's how I feel because that's the relationship that I feel that has built over that match and proving that I can hang with him and that I was everything that I said I was, and now of course it's even perfect now because what's he the death match king, the indie god, all of these things.
INDY God.
Yeah, and, and I'm the superstar. So I had this promo. It might have been posted or it might have not, but I was saying this is the marquee match at SWO 300. Superstar versus superstar. Like it was so good and it had such a good vibe.
You
I
should
was
come out wearing one of your headbands this time. One of his
Dude,
old headbands.
I gotta tell you, not gonna spoil it because I'm still gonna wear it at some point, but I had the
By
most
the time this airs, it'll probably
yeah,
been done and gone already. Yeah.
well, I don't know. But
Yeah.
the most ridiculous Mark Boy, like
Do
Zack
you still
Ryder
have your belt
football
that you
gear.
made?
Yeah, I do.
Bring it.
I was actually gonna
Fucking
bring it.
bring it.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it. I was actually gonna bring it to the ring with me this weekend if Matt didn't have to reschedule.
Yeah, definitely
'Cause
do that.
then it really would have brought everything full circle.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. You look back, and I know this is going to be another photo thing. So if you're listening to it, but I mean, you went from
Jesus,
this kid, you know what I mean, to
that's
walking
not
out
right.
here, just a complete transformation, man. Your hard work, your work ethic speaks for itself. Everything you got going on for yourself, man, has been a product of your hard work and your dedication,
Appreciate it.
and just putting your just every day, just putting your foot in front of the next and going about it, man. I'm very proud. I'm very honored to have met you. I called one of your matches and it was after the Matt Cardona match. I remember that was a talking point on it. Like you came after a big win
Yeah,
after your hero. And there's so many more layers to this, man. I definitely want to have you back on again in the future. I
yeah,
don't want to keep
absolutely.
you all night long. It is almost
Oh,
10
you're good.
o'clock here. But yeah, man, if you are listening to this podcast and you want to see more Merrick Miami, please reach out, tag your promotion, say book this guy, let's get him in here, get more work for this guy out in the scene. Where can people find you working promotion wise and social media wise?
So recently I've been frequently working, obviously, SWO, the Susquehanna Wrestling Organization, is Seven Valleys, Pennsylvania, and in Red Lion, Pennsylvania is my home promotion. Also, I've been working a lot with Ricardo Rodriguez, former ring announcer from WWE of Alberto Del Rio, owns Three Legacies Wrestling in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've been working with him a lot. Great time. Just back in August, worked Shannon Moore and Fandango.
Hmm.
Uh, Random pairing, but it was super awesome in a baseball stadium under the
Yeah.
bright lights. It was just pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, and then trying to get back up to I believe it's now what AXW
AXW, yeah.
AXW.
They just had their as of this day is recording the 16th on a Monday. Yesterday it was either 17th or I'm sorry, the 15th or the 14th. They had their very last show at the Hamburg Fieldhouse. I was
Yeah, I
unable
saw
to
that.
make it, but it's going to be that's the last show as of now that's ever going to be done at the Hamburg Fieldhouse again for quite some time, which is pretty bummer because that's a
Yeah,
historic venue and we essentially lost it. So
yeah.
yeah, AXW wrestling.
But would definitely love to get up there. Um, in talks right now with some promotions in Canada. So hoping
Get up to
to
that Creator Pro. You know what I mean? Go get a
yeah,
little bit of a rub up there.
yeah,
Get a feel for that
yeah,
school up
right.
there, you know?
Get just just
Or
try
maybe
to
go to
work around.
Cordono's old stomping grounds, get some NYWC in you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, hey, I have the contact info. But trying to get out there as much as possible. Might be a little bit rocky with
New
a
baby.
newborn coming, but I mean, I'm sure by the
Do you know if you're having a boy or a girl, or is that like a
boy,
secret thing, or a boy?
boy. Yeah.
Is his name Zach? Is that how
No,
is it
no, we named him
oh, what's his name?
Theory.
Theory. Okay.
Like Austin Theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm sure he's
but
gonna hate that. He's like, you
yeah.
couldn't name him Matt. You know, I got you.
Well, see, it's funny. It's funny because even Matt asked me. He was like, "Don't fucking tell me you're gonna name him like Ryder." So I was like, "Well, my dog's name is already Ryder, so I'm not gonna name my son that." But
Middle
yes,
name. You can do
we're
Matthew, right?
excited.
Middle
This
name.
this will probably come out, and when my son is already here,
Yeah.
so it's gonna be kind of cool.
So besides that, uh, Merrick, where can people find you on all social media and come support you and merchandise to buy merchandise?
Yeah, so you can find me across all social media platforms. Now TikTok, thank God, because for some reason they wouldn't let me change my name on TikTok for the longest time. But you can find me across all social media at Merrick Miami, uh, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all the good stuff. I'm available for bookings at bookmerrickmiami@gmail.com. Took me like 6 months to remember that email address. I don't know why I could never say it correctly, but bookmerrickmiami@gmail.com. Or just DM me via any of those social media platforms. Uh, yeah, this coming weekend, like I said, I was supposed to be wrestling Matt Cardona, but scheduling conflict. So now I'm just throwing a SWO Uprising Championship Superstar Celebration.
All righty. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I do apologize for this quick change in camera and audio. As we finish up here, it finally connected on my computer side of things. But thank you so much. I had some internet issues. First time ever in over 100 episodes, so I guess it's going to happen here and there. But thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time, man. I definitely want to touch back with you, and I hope we bump into each other on the road, whether it be on commentary or working. Like I said, Sanctuary's doors are always open. If you're ever free on a Friday and you want to come hang out, come down and hang out at the church.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It'd be fun.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Maybe you
having
get
me.
that work. Maybe you and Hawthorne can get a match in. I think that'd be one I'd love to see.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun for
All right,
sure.
man. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you guys next time on the ABJ Podcast.